Hey guys, I just finished drawing a line. That's what I was doing when you were gone. I drew this line. I actually thought of another really important tool that you should keep around, especially if you have people that use your stuff, probably without asking. That's me being bitter. Always keep extra batteries on hand for this, because this one doesn't plug in. I'm sure you can find the one that plugs in, like that one over there plugs in. But somebody like left it on and it drained all the battery. Make sure you turn it off when you're done with it. It seems silly, but when you're in the middle of a project and you're like, ah, crap, now I need batteries, it really sucks to have to run out and go get some. Not saying I just had to go do that, but I just had to go do that. So I drew a line here, and all I'm going to do, like I said before, I hope you can see this. I'm going to kind of set this down here. But all you're gonna do is using this. Your key really here is gravity. I should probably turn it on, shouldn't I? So you turn it on, these are fresh, so it should heat up really fast. There you go. And I'm just going to let it fall. I have a fairly steady hand when it comes to this. I've done it a million times. But all you have to do is really keep it steady, let the wire fall through the whole thing. And it's going to give me a pretty thick column that I can then cut up into bricks. Of course, it's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. If it was easy, everyone would do it. Actually, it is pretty easy. And you guys will get a hang of it pretty quick if you're trying. You're going to want to make the line on one side. It sounds obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway. You want to make the line on the one side as thick as the sheet is thick. This is about 1 3/4 of an inch, I think. It might be closer to 1 1/2. I'm not sure. But see, it's just, you know, perfectly square now. So it looks column-like. It's a little uneven on one side, so I'm going to dice that up at the very end. Right there. You see how awesome this thing is. And now I'm going to turn it off. Saves batteries. Now it stands up pretty nice and straight, and now we can use that to be a cool column. If we take our piece right here and we stick it in right there, you can see that that's going to give you some height. Now, it's not going to be this tall, but you kind of get the idea of what it's going to look like. These we're probably going to make a little smaller, and the ones in the back are definitely going to be smaller, mainly because they're supposed to be smaller archways as opposed to these that are supposed to be really big archways. But we're going to use this to do some practice bricks. I'm going to show you how to weather them and all that fun stuff. Now, there's two ways you can wear something, and this was one of the things we talked about when we were talking about how this project's going to go together. There's two different ways you can weather things, and one is like wind worn and one is water worn. And be surprised how different they are. Wind worn tends to be like a little bit more cracked and hard-edged, if that makes any sense. And water-worn, and since this is in a cave, that's what that's going to be, is a little bit more rounded at the edges. It's the same basic idea, but it helps to... it really helps to get a point across, especially like Weathertop, you can see is very angular in how it's cracked up. It looks more wind-worn. Like if you look at the close bricks, see how they're just very, very tore up and textured on the side. We're going to worry more about doing that on the edges of these because it's water worn. Again, cave equals water. So, yeah, let's get this big old hunk out of the way. Put this down, and hopefully you guys will be able to see this as well. I'm going to turn this back on. Like I said, it takes 2 seconds to heat up with a brand new battery. What we're going to do, because these are bigger pieces, actually, I'm going to mark it out a little bit first, is we're just going to do some very simple gradations. And I don't know why I said gradations. They're not gradations. They're all about the same size. Again, I'm just doing this by eye, so nothing crazy. If you guys want to measure it, you can go for it. At the end of the day, it's not going to be totally noticeable if you don't. And I know this, and this is why I am choosing not to care right now. Going to turn this thing on and just kind of drop it straight down and then lift up. It helps to brace your hands against something. Drop this down and then lift up. If you brace your hands, you can just kind of be like, I'm going to lift my arms straight up. And then it should be a very straight QB block. And again, if it's not, that is absolutely fine. We can fix all of that later. And with lots of weathering, it'll be a surprise if anybody's going to be like, but that doesn't look like it's straight. It should be okay. So, lifting this up. This is the exciting part where you guys get to watch me cut cubes one by one. Again, hoping that you can see me cutting the cubes, because I'm doing this on a little tiny phone. I don't have a tripod or anything. You can tell I'm professional by my lack of video taking tools and my plethora of miniature making tools. I love what I do. Okay, so we got a bunch of stuff. This actually kind of came out kind of cool, and the final one. And this was unplanned. It was just kind of a piece of plastic card I'd lying around. So we got a bunch of little cubes of stuff, and then we got this one, which is, you know, if we see what I mean by why I didn't use blueprints, because look at this. I think that looks really good right there. I think that's what we're going to do. That one's going to go right there. And then we're going to build up some archways on both sides. Of course, not just like this. We're going to do a little bit of something to it, a little bit of sanding, get it a little bit smoother. Although the texture is kind of nice, especially when we paint over it. But it's just an inspiring little piece that looks like it was cracked a long time ago. Okay, so put that away. And by put it away, I mean throw it as far away from you as you can so you don't lose it. And what we're going to do now, again, turning this off, turning it back on when you need to, is just kind of like weather down each of the sides. And you can use this with you can do this with a lot of different things. I'm going to be a little risky right now with at least the first one, and I'm going to use the wire cutter. All I'm going to do is turn it on, and the first thing you want to do is just cut a tiny little bit off the side to get like a worn, I don't know, not too angled look on the side. You don't have to do this. This is just a little style point. But I guarantee you, if you just use straight blocks, it's going to look like you didn't really work that hard. Because it's just going to look like you cut a big column of stuff out and then glued it to a base. Which, let's be honest, that's what you would have been doing. So, there you go. This, I'll make them a little more even. This, and you see how I said I risked it? I don't even like how that looks, so we're not even going to do that. We're going to throw that one away. That's why we have extra. I'm going to take some files, and I'm going to also always have files on hand. I don't know if I talked about that earlier. I'm pretty sure I did. And just file down one of the sides at an angle to put a little bit of roundness to it. If I didn't like the angled look, then hopefully I'll like the rounded look. I don't think that looks too shabby. Very simple, but like I said before, even if the person is not very educated in what they're talking about, they will notice a difference between sharp edges and rounded edges, even if it's just because their eyes are playing tricks on them by using cool, different techniques. So I'm going to weather these down. This one's ripping a little bit, but that's okay. Okay, so you can see it's very slightly rounded, still a little plain, but that's okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our hobby knife, and you want a little sharper one at this point, and you want to drag it along the edges and the top, so when it goes together, you're going to kind of get like a pursed angle in there. And if you see any of the Lord of the Rings movies or anything like that, you'll notice that a lot of their architecture is done like that. And since people like the look of the Amon Hen, that's what we're going to be doing. Something kind of like that. Again, not perfect, but good for a start. Okay. I'm going to use the file to smooth them out a little bit. Now to do some quick easy weathering. The quick easy weathering, I'm just going to take the hobby knife and just kind of like gouge out little parts. And you'll see how I'm doing that is by kind of like drawing a basic shape. This one kind of tore, which worked actually kind of well. And doing a little basic shape with the tip and then just scraping it out. And I usually turn the blade to the side when I do the scraping and keep it straight for the cutting. So if we're going to do like a cut, a little angled area, and then turn it to the side and pull out all the excess. This one actually already has some cool stuff there, so I'm just going to exaggerate it a little bit. And it'll look really cool when it's painted, because it'll look really worn and weathered. The difference between not weathering and weathering, especially with something like this, is astounding. You would not believe how simple this is, but how great it looks in the end. You also want to get used to the grain you're cutting at. Sometimes the grain you're cutting at is going to be different on each side. So when you put the little block right there, it's going to look kind of like worn and beaten. And again, that's a little exaggerated. You're probably like, what's going on? Why would you do that? If you've done this before. But when it's painted, you will see how crazy it can look. And that's something I'm going to be doing with the clear coat over there, the what's it called, water effects, and anything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like a million more like this and stack them up. If I make any mistakes, I might just throw them away like I did with that one. I'll probably take this and use it for a rock later because it's already kind of cut down to size. And then the next video we're going to be talking about how to make the rocks for the sides, and I'll show you what all of the columns look like when they're all built and said and done. Okay? Stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys then.